back to our second video in the series of Basics to IntelliWeb. This is Nigel again, and this section is going to be going over the graphics. What I decided to do was, because we have two sets of graphics across all of the different sites, one is an older version and one is a newer version, I decided that the graphics portion of this should really be broken up into two separate sections. So this section here is going to be a review of the older graphics that we have deployed across a lot of the DGS sites, and then the second one, part 2, will be on the newer graphics. So you guys can choose which one you want to watch depending upon what kind of types of graphics that you guys have. So we're going to start off the same as we did the last one by opening up our browser here, going to intelliweb.dc-dgs.com. I have my user information saved to the browser this time, so I can just hit next and select this, and we can log in. So just as last time, I don't have a landing page set for this user, so it's just going to show this for this one. So starting with older graphics, the example I'm going to be using is Alisteel because I think it covers a lot of different types of equipment in there. This site does have a plant, does have some other equipment. So in order to navigate to Alisteel's graphics, we expand Alisteel under the graphics tree. So just make sure that you're actually in the graphics section, not the network section, because the network section will just show you the controllers. The graphics section will show you this thing that says building summary. If your site says building summary, that means that you have the older version of the graphics. If you have a newer site, I believe Whitlock has it, it will say home. So that's kind of an easy way to distinguish between the older version and the newer version of graphics. So we are updating a lot of sites to the newer version, but you know, there are still some that have the older version, so we're going to include that in this video series. So once I click on building summary, it will load the graphics for Alisteel over here on the right hand side. One of the other quick ways to tell which graphics are what, the older graphics are more of a light theme with this blue background. The newer graphics are built with a more dark theme, so more of a black background. So what we did for all of the sites was kind of create a summary page of your entire building when you first log in. So when you first go to your site, this will give you a general idea of, you know, what are my temperatures, how are my spaces doing, are my air handlers running, what are the schedules currently set to. So that's kind of everything that you see here on this page. So they're all broken into tiles. The newer style is also kind of broken into a tile layout with a building summary, so that when you first sit in, you can kind of hone in on areas that might be problems, or you know, see that everything is actually operating pretty well. So starting off in the top left hand side, we have the single zone air handlers. So these are single zone air handlers, meaning that they control for the space temperature of a space. But they're large air handler units. So think of auditoriums, gyms, you know, large open areas. Sometimes they're broken up a little bit, but mostly you'll see over here, these are stage east-west, the health area, the fitness, the gym. So these are all individual air handlers. The way we have it broken up here is just some big data points for you guys to be able to see if things look like they're working correctly. If the fan is running, the supply air temperature leaving the air handler, and the zone temperature. So you can kind of see problems, you know, right off the bat when you're looking at this. The next section over here are your schedules. So there are multiple schedules for, you know, generally for a building. The way that this works is it shows you a weekly schedule of when they're scheduled to start and stop. So in this case, the addition multi-purpose room starts at 5 a.m. and then it goes off at 6 p.m. And that's the way you kind of read that. If you click on this, it will actually take you to the schedule for this, so you can make modifications. But we're not going to dive that deep in this. This is just a general overview. Moving down to the bottom, if your site does have a central plant, this one has a hot water loop and a chilled water loop. So we have a 4-pipe system here at Alisteel. Some general information, like the summary, you know, says, you know, this is your hot water supply temp, this is your domestic hot water supply temperature, On the chilled water side, this is your supply temp, this is your differential pressure. And then it kind of gives you some ideas on pump statuses down here. Anything that pertains to your site specifically, these are kind of tailored built to the equipment for each site. And then finally, and probably the most important that you guys are going to be seeing the most, you have a zone summary here on the right-hand side. This zone summary, as you can see, just updated actually. It is looking at all of the zone temperatures in the entire space, and it's breaking them into categories. Green being, a kind of a normal temperature, red being a little too warm, and blue being a little too cool. So if you see this all blue when you walk in one day, you know there's probably a problem here at Alasteel with the hot water system. That's a good way to kind of look at this. So this is actually adjustable. So normally by default we have it set between temperatures of 70 to 76 degrees. Those are the normal temperatures that you would see in a space where people are going to be. That's kind of a comfortable range here. So if we wanted to limit that, let's just say we wanted to see between 72 and 74, hit apply, and what you'll see is the bar chart will adjust up here, and it will show you how many zones are between outside of this or below it. So in this case below 72 we have 47% of the site. 10% of the zones, 20% of the site are between 72 and 74, and then up here in the top, these are 4 zones that are in fault. So we have a little description here. So fault zones are going to be zones that the temperature readings are either like 0, we don't get a temperature reading, like you'll see down here, NaN stands for not a number. This particular fan coil is probably just powered off or offline due to service or maintenance. So if it comes through as that or a 0, or it's reading like 100 degrees, stuff that's not actually probably feasible, it's going to put it into this fault category, indicating that there's a problem with that piece of equipment. There are some other cool features down here. So currently, these are all the zones, and you'll see that they actually get broken into their color categories based upon your settings up here. A perfect example, see, we have something in the fitness room that's reading 108 degrees. It's probably not actually 108 degrees in there. There's probably just an issue with the thermostat. But you can see the zones are color-coded in accordance with this pie chart up here. So, and if you wanted to filter for just the cool zones, you can actually hit this button that just says cool, and all of the zones that are currently blue or below 70 degrees will be sorted here. Same thing for warm. All the warm zones, anything over 74 degrees will appear here, and then you can always go back to all, which will give you all of your zones over here. So if you did want to look for a specific unit, like we want to look for a fan coil 1-5, I can actually type in FCU. I believe it's 1-1-5. So you can actually type down here just all lowercase. It will filter automatically for you, and then you can get right to that piece of equipment right here. Some sites might actually have the names of the zones that they serve, so you can actually type in the room number down here, and it will filter the list. If you want to just make a quick set point adjust on these units, I believe these have a dual zone, or I'm sorry, a heating and cooling set point. If you click on the temperature of the zone right here, you can see what the current heating and cooling set points are set to. So if I wanted to adjust that down here, you can see originally it was kind of set out of range. It was set really high, so it won't let you set it to a ridiculous number like some systems will let you to. This way it confirms that these numbers are within an acceptable range. You can adjust them. You can see they both move at the same time, and then easily just hit set, and then it will give you a green check mark once those settings have been applied to the unit. So that's pretty simple. If you want to dive in deeper to these pieces of equipment, you can actually click on the equipment name, and what that's going to do is it will actually load the little graphic of the unit right there in front of you. So you can see these are fan coil type units. They're a 4-pipe system, meaning that they have a heating coil and a cooling coil, so they can either heat or cool as needed. This current unit is actually it's currently off right now. You can see the fan status is off. These little animations will move depending upon what these values are that are coming from the controller. Once again, you can always adjust the set points in here as well. This interface looks a little bit different. But you can set these to, let's say 73, and then hit save. And you can see that that value now updated to 73. On certain systems, it kind of depends on the controllers that are on site. If there is a manual override existing, sometimes you will see a little hand here. It kind of just depends upon the existing equipment that was on site. This one will just update the value, but it doesn't show the hand here. So in the top right hand section, you have kind of the room data. So that's your temperature, heating and cooling set points. Some zones might have CO2 as well. Things like that will appear in this list. Anything specific to the equipment is going to be down here. So that's the fan status, your heating output, cooling output. These are your valve positions like you see down here. These are just the same data points. One's just showed in a table form, one's showed actually on the graphic. There's some other cool features that we have built into here. Alasdeal does have these 4-pipe fan coil systems. So if you ever are curious about this type of equipment, or you're just learning about the hardware, the physical infrastructure at your facility, you can click this little eye icon right here, and it will kind of give you a general idea of what a fan coil does. So this isn't the actual sequence, for your specific site or your specific equipment, but a general idea of how fan coils operate. And that's true for any of the equipment that we see here. You can always click the little eye. It will tell you more, a general idea of how the equipment's supposed to run. So that's always there. If you do ever want to get to navigation, I know that's coming in a later video, you can actually click this button, and what it will do is it will load the navigation page for this piece of equipment and show you all the data points there. So that's also very helpful if you need to dig in deeper, because we try to trim these down a little bit so that there's not a huge amount of data points that overwhelms you guys, and it's really more just the important ones. So these data points have been kind of consolidated a little bit just for better graphical representation. But you can always get more data just by clicking this, and it will take you to the controller. All right, so to close this, we just hit the close button. And then air handlers kind of work the same way. So these, you're not going to make any set point adjusts from this screen, but you can get to the air handler graphics. So if we wanted to look at a particular one, let's look at air handler 1 here. When I click on it, you'll see it will load a graphic of this air handler. So this is a mixed air handler, and you can kind of see an animation of what's happening right now. So we can see floating data points that are going to indicate, temperatures at different points in the ductwork, filter status, damper positions, return air temp, supply air temp, things of that nature is all right here. Anything that you want to adjust in terms of set points will appear in a tile at the bottom. So these ones, you can see the space temperature set point for here is set to 72, and you can see on this particular controller, any overrides are indicated with a little hand symbol next to them. And so all of your set points will be either somewhere down here at the bottom of the page. Just like on the other unit graphics, we do have some more unit information. So these are customized to the controller and the equipment, so yours will probably look different. You can see some other information down here, what the unit's doing, if it's the space temp state is currently in heating, effective occupancy is in standby currently on this unit. And then some other, like I said, generic information at the top here. This is a single zone air handler, so that gives you a kind of a general sequence of operation for this piece of equipment up here for these single zones. And then, of course, show all points and things like that. There's a couple other features, but we're not going to dig too deep into this today. There'll be other videos that we'll upload. They'll be more detailed. So if your site does have a plant, a lot of times what you'll see is either we might have a plant graphic down here, if it's a small plant. If it's a bigger plant like we see here at Alasdeal, you can actually click on the name here. And so here is a plant graphic of the chilled water system at Alasdeal. So these are kind of more detailed. There's a lot more data points on here. Getting familiar with this equipment, if you know it really well, this will make a lot more sense to you. If you're just starting out at a site, it takes some time to kind of learn what's happening. But this is all of your plant data is right down here. And then same thing for the hot water loop over here, and you can see if there are set points where you can make adjustments to the system. They'll appear like this. Binaries, you know, auto, enable, disable. Um, your hot water supply temperature set point is over here, and then just generally, you know, what's happening. You can see that currently at this site the boilers are off. That doesn't seem like we do have a pump running, um, but the boiler system isn't actually on currently. So that's how you're going to access any of your plant graphics, just by clicking the name up here. And anything that's going to be clickable with inside of IntelliWeb, you'll notice will actually give you a little hand icon. So anything that you can click on that's going to do something, we'll show you that. Anything that's not clickable will just be the normal cursor over here. There are some other features that we actually built into this. There is like a bit of a note-taking feature that some sites will have. So the way that it works is it kind of works like a Google form where you can click Add Note. You can type in your information about the note, your equipment name, what your note is, who you are, and whether you want the issue to be open or closed if it is actually an issue. When you do that, it will populate a spreadsheet over here that will kind of give you some information. So if you ever need to change something, you can close it here. This is a kind of a cool feature just for tracking and keeping stuff. This is really just for you guys. No one else is looking at this, but if you want to track issues or problems that you're having on the site, what filter sizes or anything like that, you can kind of use it in this spreadsheet here. If the site does have floor plans, you can click the floor plans. They operate the same way as this table does over here. It will just show you kind of the floor plan view of your facility with the zone temperatures. And when you click on the little zone temperature icons, what it will do is it will actually just bring up this little pop-up that you see here for that piece of equipment. Another cool thing, if you can see that how this unit, the text is actually highlighting or flashing in red. That generally indicates that there's some sort of fault on that piece of equipment. So if a point does come through as having a fault on IntelliWeb, the text will flash, black to red, black to red. So you can see this piece of equipment does have a fault on it. We would have to do a bit more of a deep dive into the points to see what's actually happening on this piece of equipment, or create a work order. That's kind of the workflow there. Moving along, the alarms, which we will be covering later, I just want to guys show you the alarms are accessible through the graphics in most cases. So if you click the alarm button here, what it will do is it will actually load the alarm page for this site here, and you can see all of the most current alarms and then go back in history over here. So you can see this site currently has 56 alarms. Some of them are active, some are not. Ones that are red are generally kind of an indication that there's more of a critical alarm. But we'll go over that more in the next video. A lot of these sites do have documentation. I know sometimes they're really hard to find. They're in a credenza somewhere, stuffed behind a desk. So any documentation that we ever get for a site when we build these graphics will actually be uploaded to the graphics so that you guys can view them. Over here in the top right, if you click Documents, you can see here we do have some old Johnson Controls drawings here for the control system, the original Johnson system, which is probably still there. So like I said in the other video, IntelliWeb kind of sits above everything. It can talk to any of the existing BASs that are on site and pull data through. So a lot of this equipment probably is Johnson Controls equipment, but Delta can actually pull that data through, which kind of makes it a great product for you guys because you have so many different systems. Sometimes you have 2 systems per site, but Delta can actually pull all of them together to give you kind of a unified interface to see all the equipment. So this kind of just works like a normal PDF viewer on the web. So we will upload them here. If there are other drawings, in this case, look, we have mechanical drawings as well for this site. You can click the mechanical, and you can see this is a 2013 mechanical drawings from looks like a restoration and addition. So if you ever need to dig deeper, we do generally, if we have them, we will provide the drawings and upload them to the graphics so you can always reference them. And also, actually, one of the cool features of this is if we wanted to look at, let me go back to the control drawings. If I go to a specific thing here, so let's look. This is the RTU for the kitchen, gallery, and W flow diagram. So what I can do is I can actually hit this documents again. You can see it just toggles it. And then I can actually go and look at the RTU for the kitchen. So this will pull some of the data through. I think this is probably the same piece of equipment. It looks like it is. So you can see here on these control drawings, you can see what was originally installed by Johnson Controls when this was put in. I can't quite see the date down there. But if you wanted to reference that or see the sequence for it from here, you can actually go and actually look at that piece of equipment live at the same time. So you can do some comparative analysis if something doesn't look right. You can toggle back here to look at the documentation for it and then actually see the live values on there. It's kind of a very powerful tool for troubleshooting. And then if we close this, I don't think there's actually that much more to cover here. These are all scrollable. You can see like here are some ventilation air handler units. So these ventilation units, they're really just controlling for supply air, right? So we do have fan status, which is always for an air handler the most important value. Is my fan actually running? So if we click on the ERU here, you can see that the ductwork is slightly different because this is a different type of unit. It does have an energy recovery wheel, a bypass damper. So we're not doing energy recovery currently. And it looks like we are providing some heat. So yeah. Then you'll notice too, if you hit the I up here, this is a ventilation air handler. You can get a slightly, this text here is going to be different from the ones that you saw for the single zone. So it gives you kind of a general one. But more importantly, if you do need to understand these equipment a lot better, check the documents section. There's going to be a lot of detail in these control drawings for the sites. Like here you can see this is a very detailed sequence of operation for that equipment. So if something's not working correctly, you can always come here and check to see what the control drawings were telling it should be doing, right? And now I think at that point, I think we are actually done with the older graphics. In the next series, we're going to be, or the next video, the part 2 of the graphics how-tos, we are going to be looking at the newer graphics, which have some cool features that these ones don't have. That was just a really big improvement. So we are rolling out those new graphics to a lot of sites, and some sites already have them. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you.